Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? We're back here with the transfer review. I didn't feel putting a very sort of overzealous, over enthusiastic intro on the video today was appropriate. So the notepad is back. We're here at 10 a.m. again, everybody. Listen, rack the likes up. I need to know in the comment section below if you want to keep seeing 10 a.m.s. I was speaking last night on the massive streams that we're doing, which I'd like to say a big thank you to. I think we racked up nearly 90,000 views on both streams yesterday in real time. I think it's 95,000 actually, because they basically process over time. So I think you get the actual statistics back over 48 hours. So thank you all for joining me. We had 4,500 in the building. The Rumour Mill has been a massive success again, which is it's a big staple of the channel. So hit the likes. This is the first 10 a.m. or 10:10, 10:15. But just let us know in the comment section below if you want to see more 10 a.m.s. We can be doing stuff. The whole discourse, debate, and discussion is something I've been promoting for the last 4 months, and that means that maybe we can go into the new season talking everything Leeds United and not having to worry about the transfer window and doing all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we can discuss other things. So yeah, how are we all feeling? Let us know in the comment section. I'm gonna try break it down as much as I can. As much as I can. We had a little bit of a good to see you in it, White Snake and on all the others as well, Dublin, Leeds, etc. But yeah, it's a period of time now of which we have to look back at, we have to assess it, we have to somehow try find positives, and we have to move on. And the old saying of which it feels like we're in mourning, doesn't it? Anyway, but it is what it is, and that's exactly it, isn't it? It is what it is. What now? Is it one of those where we just keep mourning on this window, or do we, pull up our trousers and get on with it? And that is kind of where I'm at with it at this moment in time. Vicky sent something as well. Vicky, thank you so much for that. Here's a few quid for all the effort you put in the last 48 hours, only for us to be a you-know-what show and waste everyone's time. Keep doing your thing because you work really hard, love. Howson needs to lace up his boots. Yeah, maybe have a word with him, Vicky. Thank you so much. I know there's a lot of you who are angry. I know there's a lot of you who are narked off. I think because we had such a good laugh last night and I was going away and I was watching and I was reading some of what people were saying and I was like, wow. Because obviously when I'm with you guys on here, we're having such a laugh at the expense of Leeds United in a sense. You just forget about it. It's like, yeah, I mean, I'm on streams now for 8 hours and we still haven't done anything and I'm about to go mental, but it just turned into just a funny stream at the end. But then I saw the reaction afterwards and I was like, Conor, maybe you should have taken it a bit more seriously towards the end. And this is, I guess, why I'm here today. It's to speak through it. It's to maybe talk about the negatives, but as well as the positives and try to move past this. Try to move past it. And it is what it is. But to get to the light, we have to address the darkness. Bobby said this is what happens when you play a man on work experience as your sporting director. Need to get a free agent who can play in the 10 or on the right. Yeah, the free agent chat's interesting. Dele Alli has been released or is up for someone who we can bring in. I'd probably look at Josh Brownhill. I'd have looked at Josh Brownhill anyway, but he's not the profile of which we need. He's just not, and what we've been looking at. But Josh Brownhill would be someone I'd be looking at. Hakim Ziyech is in there. He's in there. Could he be another one that we look at? Ben says, hi mate, hope you're well. In your honest opinion, do you think we go down now? Also appreciate the grind that you put into the channel. Thank you so much, mate. Will said, have a coffee or beer on me. Thanks for your concept. Thank you to Will and Ben for that, and Bobby, legends. Big fans of the channel. Right, let's get into it. So, horrific. Really bad. Really, really bad. And I'm not going to get into Conor ranty mode, but you guys might see me get into it in a bit, and I will try to draw myself back. So many red flags, naivety, inexperience, horrific verbatim on interviews, poor standard of squad planning in the attacking third, woeful outgoings, woeful. We're still talking about another season where Elan Mele is on the books, and that's not just to focus on Elan, but albeit us getting that Patrick Bamford termination in, we're talking about Bamford and Elan Mele still on Leeds United's books, and that was only a week ago, wasn't it? I think how I look at it is, if I'm Jakobio, if I'm Anton Stack, if I'm Gabriel Goodmanson, if I'm Lucas Perry, if I'm DCL, I'm looking at it, and we know what would have been said to them. We're all aware what would have been said to them. You're coming into the project. We're going to add more players. We're looking at bringing in a couple more, a playmaker, another winger. It's effectively going to aid players like Metcher, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, especially when Dominic Calvert-Lewin was saying that he's effectively they've rejected Sunderland, they've rejected Champions League clubs, etc. for his signature. I think there will have been a bit of a promise in there from Leeds United to some of these top players that we have signed, because we have brought in good players. We can't miss that. And I don't want us to miss that as well, because it's a disservice to those boys. But I think what we've got to realise with that as well, I think they'll have been sold a bit of a project. I think they'll have been sold the fact that Leeds were going to be aided in the attacking third going forward in the window at the time. Obviously, we're looking at Pajau, we're looking at Muniz, but then we developed, we moved on. But Stack and Beal and Goodmanson will have had to have been sold something. And in the last month, it's been horrendous. It's been a PR disaster. From Farke saying that he needs more players, which is what he's more than entitled to do. From, I think, the sale of Laji Ramazani without any replacement. Leeds losing to Sheffield Wednesday under 13s, and Farke coming out after that and saying that we rotated too. The 49ers pre-Everton coming out and saying we go to the end of the window. The last 2 weeks are big, and from that point onwards, we brought in James Justin. Yesterday, whilst on stream, Emi Buendia, Gus Hamer been approached at the latter embers, and then the journalists telling us, which they've clearly been fed from Leeds, that we weren't after those players when we were. We were, especially Gustavo Hamer. And then in the last throngs of the window, to be putting absolutely everything to Harry Wilson, to be putting a loan bid when he's got a year left on his deal it's almost comical. And then when Fulham reject it, you then put a bid in, of which we kind of all turned around and went, a bid? I thought we didn't have any money left. I thought we'd hit the PSR limit. So I really did wonder where that money went. We were talking about Igor Pajau for 940 million quid. We were covering it on the Rumour Mill for the best part of 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks, every single day, sometimes 6 days a week. So not every single day, every single weekday, but sometimes 6-7 days a week. Every sort of bit of news I could find on it, we're talking about it. So I was pretty well versed in both the offers that were being put in, the effort that Leeds were going to get Pajau, and to go to the last day with Pajau, with Marseille, and for him to choose Marseille at the end. Well, he probably made a good choice, didn't he, at the end? And he'll be looking at it now, and he will probably be aware of it, and he'll be thinking that was a good move by me. You look at their business right at the end, bring the likes of Matt O'Reilly in, good business. It's going to aid the likes of Marseille in the final third. And they did some good business over the summer, didn't they, with De Zerbi? So he'll be looking at that. Rodrigo Muniz, it never felt like it got going. No, but it did not feel like it ever got going. The bid went in. Habib Diarra, another one. 23 million bid, went in. Rejected, wouldn't go higher. Obviously, we brought in Anton Stack, which was brilliant. I mean, I've watched every single game Habib Diarra's played, and I think he looks absolutely brilliant. I think he looks like a proper Premier League player. Great ball distributor, ball carrier, strong, explosive. Canadian the attacking third as well. Looks excellent. Stack, I felt was a bit of a, well, they went for Diarra first, didn't they? Then they went for Stack. But Stack he's one of my favourite players already. I absolutely love Anton Stack. But, the optics were they went for Diarra and they didn't get Diarra. So I guess the question on lots of Leeds fans' lips was, well, where did that money go? Where did the money for Pajau, when you're talking about 40 million quid, of which was being rumoured from the French side, French media, and it was being spoken about on the Leeds United side, Leeds having and willing to go up to whatever price it would be for Pajau because they want their man. Muniz was another one. Conversations about Fulham wanting 50. Leeds willing to meet them at 40. credible sources. Where did the money go? What happened? Now, Kieran Maguire was saying that Leeds United earlier on in the window could spend up to 100 million quid. And that's what we did. We spent up to, I believe it was 97 million quid. I think the big thing here as well, when you're talking about outgoings, is what we're able to do. I believe the strongest outgoing was Rasmus and Sam Greenwood. That was the strongest outgoings. Why didn't we try sell Joel Peru? There was talks of Cagliari for a little bit, but it didn't feel like Leeds were trying to do that. And that's not an indictment on Peru. I think you've got to be ruthless at this level, like we've seen with the likes of Nottingham Forest before, just in terms of squad players going out, outgoings, not just the incomings, of which we know they took a points deduction for, but the amount of outgoings in their first Premier League season was unbelievable. Not just Peru. If we couldn't afford said things, could we have facilitated a move for another body? We like Pascal. We love Pascal. Could we have facilitated that? Could we have pushed that a little bit more? If we needed that to happen. Jamie Carragher was saying at the window, promoted clubs have to spend in around 150 million quid. Have to stay up. I believe Sunderland are not far off that now, or they might have surpassed it. If the PSR is so tight, why'd you go out and spend nearly a combined £30 million on Noah Okafor and James Justin? If it's so tight. And if you've got certain targets, could you have gone for a central attacking midfielder and maybe explored a loan option with a winger? Could you have done that? Were you trying to do that? Were you trying to fish Joel Peru out there? Was that happening? It didn't feel like it, did it? And that's a player maybe who could have fetched a decent value for Leeds. But they weren't able to get Meslier out the door. That's the problem. They weren't able to get the Gruev out the door. Look, we know we had a heat map day yesterday. It's funny where that heat map was, by the way, in terms of like concentration of the pitch, but that's by the by. But he did do well. Gruev out the door. Were we trying to do that? Were we trying to get, Peru out the door? Were we trying to get Strauch out the door? Were we trying to move Nonto on? These are things that would have aided PSR, of course, and given Leeds maybe that ability to invest elsewhere if they needed to do it. There was conversations at the beginning of the window from all of us. Strauch's probably going to have to go. Nonto might have to go. Peru might have to go. But to still be sat here and have the likes of Elan Meslier in the side, Jack Harrison in the side, Brendan Aronson in the side is unbelievable. Outgoings are so important in the Premier League. Incomings are massive, obviously, but outgoings are huge as well because it contributes to that PSR picture. It contributes to your ability to go out and spend on, obviously, transfers, wages, etc. So I think something else to focus on when it comes to a Leeds United standpoint is maybe the players that didn't want to come. And I kept coming on here, didn't I? And trying to give them as many plaudits, excuses as possible. I was turning around and saying, when it comes to the Niners, give them time. And you guys all know that. And a lot of you in the chat were the exact same. Give them time. Let's see what happens. And I've always been a big 49ers guy because I'm thinking to myself, I want to believe in an ownership, which I've never believed in my life. I've never believed in an ownership. Ever. Conscious Conor. Not young Conor. Krasner, Chelino, Bates, Radrazani to an extent, but I wanted to believe that we're under this professional outfit now. This professional outfit of which is Premier League level. Is Premier League level. What they're saying is what they're going to deliver. But these X-Factor targets that I was talking about, the targets that you have to go for to stay in the Premier League, you cannot be going for lower bracket targets because lower bracket targets are lower bracket output. It all fell flat. And we can have as many excuses as we want. From Bilal El Khanous, tracked for weeks. Pajau, obviously. Rodrigo Muniz. Buenanote. And then all the three yesterday. but more as well. We're all very aware of how many. Habib Diarra, another one. Noah Siddiqui, who I'm very much like on a basis now of what, because I know they went in for Hamer, but then we're being led to believe from the club down to our sources that we were never in for him. I can tell you we were. So then I'm looking at Noah Siddiqui, and it's like, well, how far were we? I'm not saying we put in a bid, but how far were we with Sunderland down the line then? Because Sunderland, if you remember, that deal kind of went quiet after Brentford got involved. Then Sunderland came in the day afterwards and bought him within 12 hours. It was all done. And unfortunately, it's got to that point where we have to talk about that club up the road. Because when you look at their signings and we talk about that X Factor level, and obviously they've had more PSR room than we have because they've spent nothing in the last 3 years. I think they've spent about 8.5 million quid, which is more credit to them under their ownership and their recruitment drive and who they've put together over the years with, the Roma director of football who came in, I believe, in the last sort of 12 months. Might even have been at the beginning of the window. Very experienced. They've got Speakman as well at the top of the helm, top of the pile, who's been there for years now and has directed and conducted unbelievable business when it comes to Dennis Sirkin, Tri-Hume, Isidore, Mienda, all these players that have come in for nothing. And 3 of which they're arguably going to go for mass value at some point. That's how you do it, And I'm not saying Leeds can't do that with some of our players, but there's been some players that have needed to leave this window, and we've struggled again for outgoings. In the last 5, 6, 7 years, Leeds have struggled for outgoings. And what I will say, and I mentioned this yesterday, everybody, we can look at the 49ers, and I've been a big supporter of them, and they've let me down massively in the last month, and all Leeds fans. But there is the gloss over from the previous ownership as well. Dan James, 25 million quid, massive contract, huge contract, installments that have just been paid off last year. Aronson, 30 million quid, cannot get rid of him. I've had to spread amortization. No club wants him. Jack Harrison, somehow still a Leeds United player when he came in 2018-19, previous ownership, can't get rid of him. Bamford, they've had to terminate his contract, which there'll have been a big payout for there. Melier, can't get rid of him. Contract again. So it obviously the 49ers have not had a good window at all. And they deserve the gun being pointed at their head, of course, but that is a little bit of context as well. There is overflow here, massive overflow from previous and big contracts, big length. And when we're talking about Sunderland there and we're talking about players of which Leeds United have been looking at when it comes to X Factor, they've gone and got Brobby yesterday from the Dutch League, who is a massive talent, who is going to fit into the Premier League alongside Isidore Mienda, who I think, because of previous recruitment and the previous recruitment of which they've not spent a lot on those two, I think those two are Premier League players. I'd have taken Isidore in a heartbeat if Sunderland hadn't gone up. I really like Mienda, and he's proven it at the start with his performances as well, that he can cope with the big stage. Mienda, you look at players that they've then added to that, Brobby coming in, obviously, from the Dutch League yesterday. They brought 3 players in 24 hours. 24 hours. 3. Brobby being one of them for 20 plus million quid. So when we're talking about these X Factor signings, that we were trying to get you Rodrigo Muniz. We were trying to get you Pajals. Sunderland have done it. Brobby, Xhaka, Siddiqui, Habib Diarra, amongst many others. Yet we've struggled. Player after player after player. Now, let's get on to this, the actual team. How do we look at it? How do we really approach this right now? The guy in the middle, DCL, has to stay fit. Has to stay fit. Like Mecha, but I'm not 100% sure on Mecha's actual goal threat yet. Now, there hasn't been a potency from DCL or Mecha their entire career. 16 goals for DCL, but I like the DCL sign. I actually think it is a good signing. I do. I genuinely do. I think if he stays fit, he's had one major injury over the last 2 years, and the major injury was out for 8 to 10 games. The big issue with Dominic Calvert-Lewin is he hasn't played 17 plus games in 5 years. That stat, I saw it this morning. I thought, wow, because we're going to need it. We're going to need it in that forward line. Okafor, very stuttered last season. Very stuttered. You guys know I'm a fan of Serie A. I completely forgot about Noah Okafor. 1 goal in 15 for AC Milan in the first half. Second half, not apparent for Napoli's Scudetto winning side. 4 appearances. I like what I see with Okafor. I think the frustrating thing I've found is you let Ramazani go without a replacement. And so, for someone in Okafor who's not better than Ramazani, he's not. And we will see that. We will see that. He is not better than Ramazani. Key word, not better than him. He's not a tier up. So we've not leveled up there, in my opinion. But I'm willing to give Okafor a chance. I'm willing to give them all a chance. And I'm excited to see Okafor. And I will say, this is what I will say. Going into it, I don't want to see Jack Harrison and Brendan Aronson being brought on ahead of our £18 million man. If that starts happening, that big, long finger gets pointed back at Daniel Farke at points. You've got to start Noah Okafor now. Got to. No James on one side and Nonto on the other. And we're going to get into that in just a little bit. Noah Okafor is effectively their statement attacking signing. He is. He's their statement attacking signing. I don't want to see him on the bench. I don't want to see Jacobiol on the bench. They've got to be starting your new signings in key positions, starting football matches. Okafor starts on that left every single game. As much as we can. No Jack Harrisons. No Nonto on the left. Noah Okafor. And that's what I'm looking at with Farke. I completely understand he's been led short massively right now. And we're going to get into that. Massively led short. But you, Noah Okafor, there has been a combined recruitment drive. Farke's been there. We've all been, we all know that. They said that big athletic piece at the start. They're all working together. Got Noah Okafor through the door. Farke happy with the signing. I need to start seeing him. No off the ball bollocks. Start Noah Okafor. Because we're going to massively need that output. Massively need that output because we know what output we get from the rest of them when it comes to certain personnel who've been at Leeds for a long period of time. Aronson, Harrison, Dan James at top level. At not championship, at elite level. Okay. So, and I think what we're looking at now is Jack Harrison as left back. Brendan Harrison's not good enough. I don't think Peru's good enough. Dan James, I'm not sure. So, how I see it overall is that attacking line from a positive standpoint, Jayden Bogle and Nonto on that right, don't mind it. Don't mind it. Really like what I saw in pre-season against some of the top teams. Noah Okafor, we'll wait and see. But I'm reasonably excited by that. Mentioned yesterday, I don't think the Sheffield Wednesday appearance was great for him, but there's promise there. I'm willing to trust in Farke and the 49ers that they got that right with Okafor. We'll wait and see. There isn't a physical readiness there. There isn't. He's come to the Premier League. He's had a good preseason. He had a good preseason the season before. And he struggled at AC Milan and he struggled at Napoli. So I'm not taking that the whole preseason thing. But he did score twice against Liverpool, was good against us. So we'll wait and see. But he has to play games. Play him. Play the man. So let's wait and see with that one. Calvert-Lewin, I'm not turning around and saying it's the worst signing ever. I'm not even turning around and saying it's a bad signing. I don't mind Calvert-Lewin. I really don't. Metcha, don't mind it. My key question is, are we going to score 50 goals this season? Are we going to score 50 goals this season? That's my issue with it all. But can I just say, Lucas Perry, Jacobiol, Gabby Goodmanson, Anton Stack, Longstaff to an extent, DCL, Metcha from what I've seen, Okafor, don't know, but we need to see him play. I don't mind that recruitment. I don't mind it. Honestly, I don't. I'm not just going to come on here and say, it's all shite, it's all rubbish. Ah! Start raging. I'm not going to do it. I'm trying to be assertive here. I'm frustrated, as you can probably tell, and I know you guys are. But I'm not saying the business has been bad, because I don't think it has been. The issue is it's in the final third. I actually think the starting bit isn't bad, even going forward. It's the depth. What happens if Dominic Calvert-Lewin draws a blank in his next 7 games and he needs replacing, he's taken out? Who'd you put in? Metcha. Okay, great, but there's not been a prolific scoring record with Lucas Metcha ever in his career. Ever. And currently, right now, he's our top scorer, isn't he? But I do like him. But depth for Nonso, what is it? Is it Dan James? Presumably, well, it will be now, won't it? Depth for Okafor, what is it? Nonso. It is, you know? Even if they'd have kept hold of Ramazani and you'd have had Ramazani and Okafor and then you'd have had Nonso and James on the other side. Different profiles, whatever. You've not got the connector. The big thing, no connector. So, should we talk about Gustavo Hamer? The 23rd of April, I said, it is now Tuesday the 2nd of September. I said this would be a very good signing for Leeds United. I'm not going to go over his history. You've got a connector there. You've got a profile that we don't have. You've got a great ball striker. And you've got someone who can win you matches. Premier League, people want Premier League experience, evidence. Got that. In a terrible Sheffield United side, which I actually think is more impressive than playing in a really good side. I mean, complemented left, right, and Charlie. "40 minutes down the road. They were absolutely worried that we were going to get him in that last week. 100%. Leeds had made contact. Quite far down the line. I like Buonanotte. Like Bilal El Kudus when we led the race for him. Like Pajau when we led the race for him. Muniz when we were the only club in for him. And I get there's context around those last two. Didn't happen. But yeah, I'm looking at all of these Sunderland targets that they're going in for. These top players that they've brought in. I'm sure they missed out on a few, but not many. Not many. Spoke to a guy last night who works up there. Works for the Echo. Works up there, will remain unnamed. And he said, Conor, they were absolutely brilliant. They were aggressive. They got the deals done. And look, we can talk about PSR all you want. You can talk about PSR this, PSR that. But you then have to still get the player. You have to convince them that when you've been out of the Premier League since 2014, you're not going to get relegated again. You're able to attract these top players, these top prospects. And Leeds have done that to an extent. But I just loved how aggressive and how quickly Sunderland were able to get bits done that they needed. And I think we I mean, as I said, that Parag interview pre-Everton, we then got James Justin in. It's just pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. Not good enough. Danny says, Ramazani won't even play for Valencia now. They've signed Solomon. They haven't, mate. They've signed Villarreal. Villarreal have signed him, not Valencia. But Gus Hamer down the road, it's naivety from the board level. It's inexperience. And I did actually see a Lucy Ward. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Lucy Ward, obviously formerly of Leeds United. Very, very intelligent lady down at Leeds. And she's excellent. And she's been brilliant in the youth development. She actually tweeted something when Underwood was appointed. And it was the emoji of like, and now Leeds fans are going back to that and thinking, why did she say that? Why did she say that? And this shouldn't just be an Underwood thing, because that's not fair as well. Because you're hanging him out to dry. It's not his fault. I'm sure he's trying his best, but who's appointing them? Who's appointing him? This entire transitional period was a little bit of a worry. We spoke about it on Generation Leeds with my dad. And we're talking about we're going up to the Premier League, and we're having all of them effectively within however many months leaving when it comes to Steinson, when it comes to Hammond. You know, when it comes to Jordan Miles, do you remember he was there for 6 months? Conor, they're all going. So it's a transition, and then you're internally recruiting a lot and pushing people up, and you're thinking, well, they've got no experience here. And I know we spoke about it on the channel a couple of times, but there was a little bit of a worry there. But that was kind of dragged down by obviously the signings that Leeds United were making in terms of the calibre of Beal, the calibre of Stack, Goodmanson, and co. Perry, another one. But I think when we're overall looking at it, and we're seeing the attacking players that we've got, Dan James, I mean, I just pulled up some numbers here, and we're seeing him struggle already. 150 plus Premier League games. Per 90, 0.10 assists per 90 this is. 0.15 goals per 90, which is way below Premier League valuation, Premier League standard in terms of a winger. And that's because he's a head-down runner. He runs in straight lines. He's not great in tight spaces. He's not great at decision-making in the final third. Lacks body feints, close control, tight areas. And that is Dan James at Premier League level. Championship, he's absolutely exceptional, and we all know that. Championship is exceptional, but there's always been those question marks at Premier League level. Peru needs an environment where you're creating high-volume chances, needs space. You're just not going to get that in the Premier League. Jack Harrison is a left-back now. And I'm fine with him being back there, not anywhere near the start, the front ember of the pitch. I know he's delivering some. I know he's okay against Newcastle. I get that, but I think it was more just preservation and keeping that defensive side okay. Brendan Harrison's got 1 goal. 1 goal since January 2025. Struggles in high pressy situations from the opposition. Has too many touches on the ball. So this is your depth. This is what we're talking about. This is your depth. So we're kind of getting to a situation here where this, starting out, I don't actually mind, believe it or not. But we don't have that connector. We don't have the 8, the 10 that's going to be able to curate chances for Leeds United. Multiple chances at least. And the lack of Gustavo Hamer when he's 40 minutes down the road. His best mate plays for Leeds. And like the combination of like arrogance and naivety. The arrogance, well, Leeds United will go in from at the end of the window and he'll fold to come to Leeds. You've got a player there who's proven it before, but you go for 500 targets before you then meet Gus Hamer, who makes a massive difference to this Leeds team. Massive difference. Would have been perfect. And you still need another one, but Hamer would have covered a lot. He'd have fit in at Ellen Road. He's the right character, the complete right character to fit in at Ellen Road. And he'd have been a brilliant signing. 40 minutes down the road. So, overall, when we look at this window, I think there has been some horrific mishaps in the final third. Horrific. Which could cost us going down. And a lot of you are asking the question. The question to me, you're all asking the question. And we'll get into Derby Days. I watched your video earlier, mate. Good stuff. Pat P says you put a bit of a shift in yesterday. Kept us entertained with nothing going on. Thanks, pal. Pedro says, always look forward to your 10 a.m. show. Kind of keep up the good work. Have a beer or two on me. Sunderland showed us how it's done. They did. We looked desperate and incompetent yesterday. Josh says, baffles me how we didn't say F it and go Hamer. Maybe in the boardroom they were saying he was too fat. Maybe that's what they were saying. Maybe. But when I look at Gus Hamer, I think, oh, he scored from the halfway line against Birmingham in the first game of the season. Against Millwall, the goalkeeper was pulling out 2 world-class saves because Gus Hamer gets the ball out of his feet from 30 yards and tries to ping it in the top corner. Who do we have who does that? Who do we have who's a ball carrier, who can thread the ball between the centre-back and the left-back, the centre-back and the right-back? Who have we got who can ball carry and be the connector in that area without having to worry about covering as well, because you've got to keep your eye on defensive elements when you're in the Premier League and when you're a midfielder. Gus Hamer is the maverick. But they get rejected by Buendia. They're rejected by Sheffield United, effectively, because they missed out on a £1 to £3 million valuation, which is what I was told. And this is why I said, when I was talking about Gus Hamer, deal close, I said it's 95% of the way done from what I'm told. That 5% is massive. As we know with Pajau, as we know with Buonanotte, as we know now with Gustavo Hamer as well. That 5% at the end is massive. Doesn't matter if a journalist has said, oh, deal's nearly close to be getting done, because this window has taught us all that means absolutely jack. It means nothing. You've got to get it over the line. So as I say, the signings that we've made from a rearguard, a midfield perspective, I'm happy with. I think in the central space, you've got a variation of different profiles. The back line, I like it. Daniel, I'd love to see Yaka, though, at some point. Goodmanson, I think, is a really decent sign. I've loved him once again in these tight pockets, these tight situations. He's press resistant. He's got a good left foot. We now, something that we have to talk about as well, we now don't have anybody who can take a corner. So these marginal incremental gains that we get from being in the Premier League and teams focusing on set pieces and our entire strategy of bringing in seniority and physical players, the physical players aspect is not going to be enhanced because we don't have anybody in that sense. So Harry Wilson, a Gustavo Hamer, and Emi Buendia, a Bilal El Khanous, a Buonanotte. We've not got anybody apparently in the team who can take a set piece, barring one of our biggest players on the pitch. So one of our biggest players on the pitch is going to continue to take corners for Leeds United throughout the season, which will leave Leeds United short in the box or without a lack of profile who can cause more problems. So that's another aspect. So I think set piece is massive. And Leeds United, I don't feel focused on that enough. And that's from a managerial standpoint, of course, from a coaching standpoint. However, they need players in who are able to conjure lovely balls into the box, have, you know, effectiveness from set pieces. Gustavo Hamer, who was 40 minutes down the road, Leeds United. But we're too arrogant. We're too arrogant to do that, aren't we? Because we're Leeds United. We're better than the rest. That's what we are. We're better. So we'll wait. And we'll wait and we'll wait and we'll wait and we'll wait. And we'll go to the back end of the window and we'll say, come on, Gus, come down the road. Come down the road. We'll tell everyone that we didn't go in for him. And they'll all believe that. We'll tell everybody that we didn't go in for Emi Buendia. They'll all believe that as well. But we'll go in for him last minute of the window and we'll say, do you fancy it, Gus? Do you fancy it? And he'll say, yeah. Of course, it's Leeds United. Pure naivety, pure arrogance. You go and get him right at the beginning. I understand if you want to go for a player of which is you see as a higher caliber and then go get him, but do it at the start when they've got time to bring in a replacement as well. You go in at the end. Sometimes I think with Leeds United, you'd fall into a barrel of boobs and you'd come out sucking your own thumb. That's sometimes how I feel with Leeds United. And I was saying it yesterday, they'll have more excuses than a pregnant nun. That is what will happen when we'll hear with Parag. It's been a good window, this, that, and the other. I need to see what he says as well. I need to be told from a board perspective what's gone on. Why when we've had Igor Pajau that we've been going for that amount of money? Why we've been talking about, you know, Rodrigo Muniz for that amount of money? Do we have now no money? Why have we gone for a loan signing? Then in the background, we're being told with Harry Wilson that we can't get anybody else because we're strung with PSR. Then we put in a permanent offer for Harry Wilson. Where's that come from then? Why have we spent 10 million quid on James Justin if we're nearly close to PSR? Why? It's shocking preparation. It's been an awful last month. Awful. Let's get into a couple of your comments as well. Lofts has said, here's a pint for yesterday's effort, mate. Farke will get the boot, even though it's the 49ers that have screwed him over. Where's all the money gone? Says Lofts. And do you know what, Lofts? Do you know what now? This is the situation now, okay? So, I am convinced everything that happened in the summer, this is my opinion, I am convinced that the 49ers leaked all that to the mate Mike McGrath, okay, who's been with them over in the States and probably will be with them over in the States for the New Orleans meetup, I would presume. Mike's been a little key for the 49ers in terms of dripping certain things. I think they were genuinely very close to sacking Daniel Farke in the summer. That's what I believe. Now, what this window feeds you with now as a Leeds United fan and potentially a general fan is we've done the business. You brought in your defenders, you brought in your midfielders, but the manager's come out and said he wants certain players in the attacking line. You've then not backed him. It's a poor look. It's an awful look from a PR perspective again, because everybody comes back down to you're not backing the manager. Just been sent something. We'll be joined by Parag Marat, Stuart Dallas, and Square Ball podcast on the national meetup in New Orleans. I might just book a flight and get over. I'm not even kidding. I might just book a flight and get over. Stick it on the credit card, get over to New Orleans. When's the 13th of September? Might just do it, genuinely. Most spontaneous thing I've ever done. Get it on a credit card and go over and see what they have to say. Video it, maybe try get a question in, or 3. Can we get to 50 goals? I don't know if we can. That lineup, I don't think's bad. And let's just talk about Daniel Farke again, because we were on that point, weren't we, before that was sent over to me. They now, from a PR perspective, because they've turned, Loft's just made a good point here, the focus will now, and quite rightly so, by the way, and I've got to be careful how I word this because people will take this out of context, the fault of which is the 49ers, right? The manager of Leeds United is Daniel Farke. If we're going into games and we're not being pragmatic, like we were against Arsenal when we looked woeful, Sheffield Wednesday under-13s where we got beat, which was horrendous, and the book will always stop at the manager when you can't beat Sheffield Wednesday under-13s. But then we went and got a really good draw at Newcastle. Farke set up differently. He was pragmatic, brilliant. Well done, Daniel. Restricted Newcastle. That's going to get harder throughout the season because teams have now gelled. They've brought in the players, you know. You look at Newcastle at the weekend, they'll have had Voltemade in, wouldn't they? You know, for that game, and maybe he'd have been able to finish a couple of chances for them. They'd have had injuries back. Likely they're not going to have that many singular injuries for a game throughout this season. There were just so many of them. But Leeds will have Tanaka back, we'll have Ampadu back, but we'll still have the same problems. It's the connector, it's creativity. Other teams will get players back, and that will solve their problems. So, when you come back to Daniel Farke, you look at this whole thing, and if we play Fulham, and we set up in the wrong way, and we don't see, let's say, Okafor, and we let whatever, you know, and Farke sets up in a way where we're coming on and we're going, what's he doing there? You now can't say that. And quite rightly so, to an extent. So you can't criticize effectively what's going on when it comes to the in-game management, the in-game substitutions, because what the 49ers have done now is they've created a mass problem. Because you can always turn around then and go, well, you didn't invest. What's he supposed to do? What is he supposed to do? So now, if they're ever thinking about getting rid of Daniel Farke, which we all know, if there's a bad set of results in the Premier League, because you can't be done 4 or 5 times, you can't get no points in 4 or 5 games, and teams in the Premier League are so good that is a likelihood. We saw that with the teams last season. You know, you can go through a barren run, an awful set of fixtures, which Burnley are set to go through. Will they stand by Scotty Parker, or will they get rid of him? But now, because the 49ers haven't backed Daniel Farke in an attacking sense, the focus has switched completely, even from maybe people who weren't sure on Farke and not sure about his tactical imprint. As I say, did well last time, of course, against Newcastle, but people know what his managerial deficiencies are. The focus has switched completely onto Parag, onto Underwood, onto whoever else is there in that recruitment team. And that's their fault. Give him the tools. And then it's down to Daniel Farke. You've got Gustavo Hamer. You've got Emi Buendia. You've got Harry Wilson. You've got Bilal El-Khanouchi. You've got Buenanotte. Whatever. But you can't then give Farke then can't give excuses because he's got a good enough team to be able to really go into it and give it a good go. Now you're kind of looking at it and I'm going, well, Farke now and the 49ers, will they, from a PR perspective, ever turn round and actually do it within the process? Would they, if you lost Farke, would they do it? I don't think they would now because they know they've absolutely ballsed up this window. So it's a PR nightmare getting rid of Daniel Farke if they ever wanted to do so. And I believe they did want to do so, or they're at least putting it out to the fan base in the summer with their good pal, Mike McGrath, who's with them everywhere at the Daily Mail. Then he puts out this piece of who Leeds are looking at, Corberan, etc., who they're looking at, why they're looking at him. Where's that come from then? You know? So it is just an absolutely horrendous state of affairs from top down. Top down. Rob says, this screams of the 49ers sacking Farker before the next window and then desperately trying to get attackers in while trying to get Melier and Brendan and Harrison out the door too. Do you think it's too late if we get Hamer in Jan? Danielito said they've shown how out of depth they are, how they stumble around. I think Danielito as well and everybody else is we've been promoted since the 21st of April. 21st of April we've been promoted. We've been promoted longer than Sunderland. And Sunderland have gone out and done what they've done in terms of across the pitch. Leeds shouldn't have to convince players to come to Leeds over Sunderland if that was the case. You know, if that was the case with Habib Diarra, Noah Siddiqui, whatever. However we've been fed the news, you know? Alistair says, exactly. I was very much Farker out, as I have concerns, but now I'd keep him in the season because we need someone to get us promoted next season. Yeah, and this is kind of where I'm at as well, mate. Like, I can't understand from such a successful franchise how they've let it get to this. How they've let it get to this. I've woke up gutted. Honestly, I'm gutted. I really am. Because I'm going on, and you know, you've got an international break as well coming up. You've got players who will have been looking forward to other players coming in as well on deadline day. It gives everybody a lift. It gives everybody a lift. Kingy's in the building. Kingy says, I'm putting this on the 49ers. However, we need to remember it's Farker that kept Harrison, Aronson, and Gruev and signed off on the mediocrity of 6 out of 10 of our signings. Well, obviously, Farker was involved in recruitment. That was made evidently clear. But I'm not pointing the finger at him in terms of bringing players in. That's not his job. It's not his job. Parag, just yapper. If you yap, but you're like that, mate, you've got to deliver. It's that simple. You've got to deliver. When you're telling people you've made a rod for your own back, this is the issue with him right now. But I have woke up gutted. I really have, and I'm trying to shift it. I'm going to have to do something today. Got another video that I'm recording with Ben and Matt at midday. But I'm gutted with it because it feels like right now, with what we've seen, we've got 4 points out of 9. We've stood strong, haven't we? Rearguard, midfield. What are we just going to draw every game? Is that what we're going to do? We're just going to draw? Because I don't know who bridges that gap between the midfield and the attack. There's not a player who does that, really. You can move Nonto central, but I think then you lose Nonto out wide. I think he's probably the only player who could do that. I think he's the best player at it. You cannot put Brendan Aronson in the number 10 in the Premier League. You can't. He's a championship footballer. Peru cannot play in the number 10, and I don't think he's a Premier League footballer either. Davide says, did Farker really choose to keep those, though, or are they on as much money as nobody else wants them? That is a bit of context as well. As King says, well, I'm not moving the blame. The entire club is a disaster. Top down. That's it. Top down is where it starts, Kingy. It starts from the very top. Very top. But we've given ourselves. It does, Steve. It really does. And I think everybody, even the most optimists, I know you are as well, Steve, and I've tried so hard to be optimistic this window. Jesus Christ. I've tried so hard to be positive these last 12 months. And I've tried to give them as much leeway and actually took flack for it. A lot of flack for giving them leeway, for trying to believe in the new signings and backing everything. But yesterday was and the last month has been so bad from a Premier League club. It harks me back to the days of which, it was Bielsa and that was it in the background. That's what it felt like yesterday. We were scrambling. It was embarrassing. So we've got to look now. It is what it is. What do? Do you go out and get Christian Eriksen? Do you go get Ziyech? Do you go get Josh Brownhill? I think they've got to go get Josh Brownhill. Brownhill is a bit of a boost from the bench. He's an option. I know I've mentioned 18, Championship goals. That doesn't mean he's a Premier League player. Wolves went in for him. I think Leicester have been in for him. He's said multiple times, or apparently his camp have said that he'd take a move to Leeds United, or he'd be happy. It's close to home for him as well. But they don't want to do it, do they? The Niners don't want to do it. That's the frustrating thing. We know we've exercised the free market before in Gilavoggi, but they don't want to do it. Otherwise, he'd have been one of the first targets. He'd have been in on the money, Hamer. If I'm Gus Hamer and Leeds come in for him in the last minute, and I've seen all the reports of them going for 750 other targets, barring me, when I'm the obvious choice, I'll be turning around and I'm going, have that. No way. I'll stay where I'm at, mate. I genuinely would be. You need to, a player needs to know that he's wanted as well, not last resort. Papa Roach. If Farke somehow keeps us competitive until January window, he deserves the key to the city. Yeah. Whatever. I'm sick of talking about this, though, Taff. I'm sick of talking about this, Dan. What's 100 grand a week? Well, look what you've done. At least Brownhill is some sort of connector. Scotty Parker played him in an advanced role last season, and he was a revelation. And it's the first time he's really played there in his career, in an advanced position. If he's a connector, you got to go. How much is staying in the Premier League? If Josh Brownhill can get you closer to, and this is what we're talking about now, because the absolute shit show that we were in the last month, or have been in the last month. But if Josh Brownhill can get you closer to 50 goals or whatever it needs to be in the Premier League, then you go out and do it. But I'm being a hypocrite because I've said I don't think Joel Peru's that guy. He scored 19 goals last season. Brownhill scored 18 goals. At least Brownhill has done it before in the Premier League and has rejected Premier League offers this window. So it will be somewhat of a coup. I mean, if you go and get Christian Eriksen, how much is he going to want? There's nobody else. There's nobody else in this free market. But from a PR perspective, I think they've got to go do something. They've got to go and do something. George says Parag set a bar of expectation from his talking and fell massively short of it. The Ramazani, Harrison, Aronson debate is on Farke. But the rest is completely on Parag. Talked too much and failed. As I've said, I think we're all on a common consensus. If we don't see Okafor, and we don't see Nonto on the left, and he pursues with Dan James, who is struggling, and I think will continue to struggle at Premier League level. This is the fear that I had, and I know it's only 3 games, but it's the tendencies in game. It's what we're looking at in game with Dan James. It's the straight running. It's the lack of ability to vary his game. Bring in feints, just dropping the shoulder, bringing in those feints when it comes to maybe striking the ball and dummying it. Just bits as a winger, of which puts the fullback off a little bit. It is the straight running. I'll beat a man with pace. Dan James, that we're all aware of, that works in the Championship when you've got high volume possession. I don't think Dan works. I think Dan works as an impact sub, and I can see that to an extent for Joel Peru. But they both need space. and you're not getting space against a lot of these teams. Fullbacks and defenders defend space first. That's the problem. They don't do that in the Championship, and they're quicker, they're more athletic. Dan, I think, will struggle. His Premier League ratio isn't good anyway in terms of per 90. So, I don't know, everyone. I don't know. As I've said, I think this isn't a bad starting 11. I think this as a starting 11 potentially keeps us up, maybe, with some January additions. But this has to stay. There can't be injuries. There cannot be injuries to this. You know, you can stick Longstaff in for certain games, of course, but up here, where is it? No, wrong way. There, you can't have injuries. You've got to keep DCL in there because he's our best chance, really. He's coming on 90 grand a week. He's our best chance. Okafor's got to hit the ground running. We've got to see it. Nonto. Have to see him on the right. Have to. So I'm trying to give a few positives. That's what I'm trying to do. Genuinely, I'm trying to apply a few positives to this. That I don't think the lineup is horrific. The starting 11, it's the depth. The depth. So what do you guys give this window? What do you give it? I saw your video, mate. I saw your video. I wouldn't. I wouldn't, because I genuinely believe as a player, in terms of like winning free kicks, winning headers, running the channels, I think DCL is a better player than Bamford. I think he's a better player than Bamford. I do actually think that, and I think DCL would be a good signing for Leeds. But I do understand what you're saying. I do get what you're saying. Nonto not improved either. What I'd like to see, Sripper, is him on that right. I don't want to see Farke putting him on the left. Farke's got to play him on the right with Bogle because that's been working in pre-season. That's what I'm saying with the manager. You put Nonto on the right, Okafor on the left, and we start with this most weeks. Brilliant. And we'll see what happens. So that's the best we're going to get. It's the best we're going to get. Metra's rotation, James's rotation, Perua's rotation, bring in Brownhill, rotation, bit of a connector there. They've got to do something in the free market. Christian Eriksen, Brownhill. 5 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 1 out of 10, harsh. 1 out of 10, harsh. Window was 5 out of 10, says Drum. 5, 5, 5. I think the average is 5, innit? Should put a poll up. Let's put a poll up. And that's probably a better way of measuring it. You guys get in the comment section and let me know what you think. But yeah, we'll get a poll up. And I'm interested to see what you say on this one. The poll might not actually rating... Tell you what, we'll go like 1 to 3, and 4 to 7. And I don't believe any of you are going to say the last one, but yeah, or 8 to 10. So we've got a poll next. I don't think anybody else will. I don't think it'll let me do all like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alistair says 8 out of 10 for the defensive build. 2 out of 10 for the attacking build, 1 out of 10 for the sales. Chaz's stadium renovations as well. How embarrassing will it be to 55k? They won't do it, mate. Chaz, they won't do it. It's not going to happen, pal. They can't do it. George says, did you cop any of the new Adidas gear this morning? £100 for trousers? Nah, I knew they were going to do it. I knew they were going to do it. It's like, oh, look over here. Look over here. Shout out to you, George, as well. You become a One Leeds member. Top man. Yeah, I know it's hard, Kingy, innit? Put it this way. If some of you were saying, I know that none of you were saying 3%. 3% have said 8 to 10. I'm quite surprised at that. Maybe that's just trolling. But I know when you're saying 4 to 7, there's more of you who are saying 4, 5. It was more of a who's going to be saying like the low, and then the middle bracket. Matthew says, do you believe we can get any business done in January? We'll be flirting with the bottom of that table. Do you think available players want to come to that? It's another consideration, mate. it's another consideration. It really is. I think we're going to really struggle now. Yeah. Yeah. I think you've got to keep the starting 11. The starting 11 now has to perform, which is on my right. Has to perform. And there's just not that much depth. But yes, I feel Leeds are going to struggle. Yeah. It's a lot harder now. It's become a lot harder. Cheers, John. 10-10 for heat maps. Hey, Conor, Patrick Bamford is available. He is, mate. He is. Okay, Rob says, I think there's a bit of an overreaction, as I said last night. I'll get called a happy clapper and that, but the defence and midfield is good. The attack about equal to Everton last season, copium. I agree with you, Rob. I think there's a lot, and I get it. I understand people are fuming. I get that. I'm probably a little bit more positive than most. I'm frustrated, as you all know. I'm absolutely livid with how the last month has gone and how pathetic it's been and the lack of direction, the naivety and the arrogance from top down. But I agree. There's a tad overreaction, although that might be too much of a strong word for me. But I think there's a little bit more positivity than people think. I think we've played 3 good teams, very decent teams at Premier League level. I think for 2/3 of that, we've looked good. We've not seen Okafor yet. We've not seen Nonto on the right of that front line yet, really consistently. And we've only really seen DCL recently, haven't we? So I'm kind of looking at that and I'm thinking, well, if you can keep that 3 and James and Peru as rotation and Mecha as in the Premier League, then yeah. But I know what you mean. I think we can keep clean sheets, which is good. But you've just got to keep that front 3. But as I keep saying, the manager cannot be playing. You're not going to come on here. And if he's starting Harrison wide left, or if he's starting James right wing and Nonto left wing, which isn't working at the minute, it's just not working. And he's not starting Okafor. That is the manager's problem. That is the manager's problem. He needs to start no Okafor on that left. We all know that. So Okafor has to start DCL, Nonto. But if he's doing that and it's just not working, that's then, in my opinion, just the squad deficiency and the issue with that. Who's the best forward 3? Steve, I think that's it. Hopefully. Well, we need to see with... And also, it's not... Yeah, I agree with OIB here. It's the level of bullshit that's come from Parag and what Farkas wanted. I'm going to give it the window a... I'm going to give the window a... 5.5. I'm giving the window a 5.5 because I like Perry. I think it's a good signing. I think keeping all the Stroud, even though I think they tried to do that, is decent business. Although, if it's from a PSR perspective, you'd probably rather have him potentially have gone so we can get other players in, even though I love Pascal. Beal, I think, is a top signing. Goodmanson, I really, really like. Tanaka, there was rumours at the start of the window of him going and being mass profit, obviously, because he'd probably cost the club 30-40 million and we brought him for 3.4. Stack, I think, is good business. Lewin, I don't mind. Okafor, wait and see, 50-50. Ramazani, that's the positive. The lack of attacking signings, the sale of Ramazani with the predicament we're in, 2 free transfers coming in the centre forward space is just shocking. Even though like DCL is fine, but you've got to have another one. Scrambling on the last day of the season for 3 players. Being arrogant and naive. Yeah, it's a 5.5 for me. It's a 5.5. So I think they've done bits which have helped us, and I think 2/3 of the pitch we look strong, but that attacking output is so important, and they've just not done it enough. They've not done enough. So that's why it's been brought down for me. Matt says Okafor has injuries written all over him. He does, mate. He does. He does. Yeah, he does have injuries. It's not ideal when he's come in and immediately he's injured. DCL's never played more than 17 games in 5 seasons. Nonto, wait and see. And James and Peru, I don't think are starting Premier League level. I just don't think they are. So you look at the first area of the pitch and it's strong. I think it's strong. So Leeds, I think, will be able to keep clean sheets if they're set up in the right way, by the way. You know, you go in and you see, us playing out from the back, which is something we've got to bear in mind. You see us playing out from the back against top teams, and that's on the manager. You know, you see certain personnel not starting, that's on the manager. New signings not starting, that's obviously on the manager. But if he's starting something close to this week in, week out, and they're getting turfed, then it's not his fault, is it? It's not his fault. Right, guys, I'll tell you what, I'll leave it there. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. What do you think to my analysis? Let's keep it respectful, keep it on point as well. Really appreciate all of your constant support, everybody. We'll be going and doing a video on my second channel now, reviewing all the window. And it's been an absolute pleasure, everybody. We're going to be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. with something else, so make sure you're here with me. It's been an absolute pleasure, everybody. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'll see you in a bit. Cheers.